information. But if you send a client a proposal, you have no idea. All you know is they opened the email. You don't know how much they read, what they looked at. With DocSend, you're able to send a link that allows people to view the document, but you also know where they stopped. How many seconds did they spend looking at my team slide? How many seconds did they spend looking at the price of my product? Was it a pricing issue? Was it an IP issue? Was it a contractual issue? What is the thing that got their attention? Right? That's what DocSend does. So with DocSend, you have a huge amount of data of founders sending their pitches to investors. And an investor is able to, you're able to see what the investor looked at. On average, what slides did they pay attention to? What did they spend the most time on? What did they skip and spend the least time on? So we have this rich amount of information. Now, I want you to look at each of these individual components behind me. What is your favorite slide to give when you're pitching your company? What is the most fun one that you have the nicest animations for, that you spend the most time on? What do you like? Good. Team. You like bragging about your team. Do you have like Nobel laureates? Ex-Google. Yeah, if you've got that, then that's awesome. We get to brag. We get to build some cachet. Team is a good one. What else? Second favorite. The problem and solution. What did you say, sir? The product. So I like talking about the product. Look at how it does this. It's so cool. We've managed to do this. We've managed to do that. This is a huge problem. This is how we've solved it. Aren't we so nice for solving this problem? What is your least favorite slide? The one you skip through really quickly. Market size. I don't like saying all these numbers. My TAM, my sum, my sum. It's a nightmare. And I don't want to be questioned too much. And where did you get this number from? Well, it was this newspaper article that I saw last week. I don't remember which one. What else? What else sucks? Market size. Yeah, I see a lot of founders. The funny thing about market size is that everybody's insecure about it. Founders are like, is it too big? Does it seem unrealistic? Is it too small? Does it seem uninteresting? Nobody's asking, is it real? All they're asking for is, what should the number be? And I'll figure out a way to make that number happen. So, let's take a look at what investors pay attention to. This is an analysis of over 300 decks that successfully closed the seed round. This is how many slides. So on average, you've got 2 problem slides, and 88% of them had a problem slide. The interesting thing is that if you go way over here, we have financials. It's surprising that investors invested in companies, 40% of them, that had no financials in the deck. Surprisingly high. But it might be that the financials are in a separate data room, that it's not part of the pitch. But it also shows that when it's there, on average, there's multiple slides going over unit economics and everything else. Now, this is the fun part. This is how much time investors spend looking at each individual component. Financials and team. Least time spent on problem, solution, market size. So that's good for some of you. You're rare in that you like team. I find most people are insecure about going for team. This is the average of most team slides. Hi, my name's Ahmed. This is Umar and Usama. They're really cool people. We're rockstar ninjas. I'm CEO. He's president. He's super duper president. Next slide. And that's it. No substance, nothing. Sometimes the team just isn't very experienced. That's fine. Now, it's not just the data that's interesting, it's the logic behind the data. Why do investors spend a lot of time here and here versus less time here and here? How come? Why? Because, hold on.
I want to
Come
say
on,
the answers.
everybody needs to hear.
Do I really? Okay, so because the financials and the team are the practical stuff, that doesn't change. The problem and solution, they might pivot, they might go in, and it changes with time.
If they pivot, the financials don't change?
It does. However, if you look into the financials very deeply, that's where you know whether the market size is something that they can reach to or not, kind of.
Why? Why financials and team? Why do investors like those two?
If you have a great idea but you have a bad team, they cannot do anything with that idea.
Invest in team.
Yeah.
Investors on all their websites, every VC fund, we invest in people. Investors are all very nice people who care deeply about us. They're such humanitarians, right? We're angels. Of course. Everybody who's received investment is just showered with love. Come on. Really? Really? Why do investors care about financials and team? By the way, if nobody raises their hand, I just select people, so I'm sorry. Come
Just
on.
give me a second to think on financials and team.
Doesn't have to be perfect. Why do they care about financials and team?
Most likely because the team is behind everything. So without the team, you cannot just build anything.
Team is super critical. You have one?
Because in the financials, you're going to look at your unit economics, and if you don't have, if you don't showcase unit economics that show that there's traction, then the team isn't going to do anything about it. So,
As a founder, is what you put in your financial model in the future, is it very accurate? Is it likely to be accurate?
Of course not. Everyone wants 20% growth year on year and all of that. So when you focus on the financials, mostly I believe what investors are going to look at is the unit economics on the LTV, CAC, all of that.
Exactly. So the key difference is that this stuff is very objective. This stuff is very subjective, right? This is based on your interpretation. This is stuff that I can fact check. I can look at your financials, I can benchmark them, and I can compare them to different models. And I can see if you are realistic or you have something crazy going on and you're imagining something that doesn't exist, if there's hallucination happening in this business model. So I get all this information about you, about your team. If you lie about your credentials, that's easy to find out. And I'm gonna know. And it means that I don't need to pay attention to all of this stuff, because all of it is pointless if you don't qualify for like credibility, number one. So I'm not gonna dig too deep into why and how. I'm gonna focus on how, actually. I'm gonna be giving you lots of examples. So I don't like to talk about stuff in the abstract. I'm going to show you a slide that does things really well as an example and tell you why I like it. But I have to warn you, this is not a request that if I say this is a good team slide, that you design a team slide exactly to it. I want you to take ideas and customize them around your story. A pitch is kind of like makeup. You are accentuating good features and you are blushing over some imperfections that exist in every single company. All right? So make sure that you understand that there are limitations. A pitch won't fix your company. If you have an inherently good company, it will be a lot easier. Yes?
Sorry, just to ask about the x-axis, what's the monetary value there? Is this
This is seconds.
seconds? Okay. This is S. I thought it was dollar sign.
Yeah. Somebody sees dollar signs. This is how many seconds. So this tells you that on average, they're spending about 3 minutes looking through your entire deck. You spend how many hours making this PowerPoint? You send it, 3 minutes, tuck, 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 and they're done. Now, this is one of the better team slides that I've seen. Not because it's incredibly well designed, but because it explains an important concept of economy of information. So, what this team slide says, these are the skills we have. It doesn't show Stanford, Harvard, I studied this, but it does show our skills. It does show that we know what we're lacking and where we're planning to go. So it gives you a lot of information about now and the future. Different from your typical team slide of, just everybody together and their life story. Okay? You don't have to do this, but it just shows that they compacted all this nice information, because I'm going to see, oh wow, okay, so they're focusing on a lot of tech development in the coming future. This is the phase of the journey that they're at. So a lot of my thinking when I see this is going to be, oh, what features are coming up? What kind of tech, what kind of advantage are they going to build around this? Okay? Now, there are some times where I've been seeing a lot of founders back to back, and they just show me these charts. And they're like, and this is our projections, this is our business model, this is our cash flow, and this is our financials or unit economics. And then they stand there for like 5 seconds waiting for me to just absorb this information. And then they're like, okay, next slide. That is totally useless, okay? I do not have time to look through all your data and understand exactly what you mean. I have no idea what you're telling me. The biggest crime, like if you take one piece of advice away that will set you apart from 99% of founders out there, is do not kill your headlines. What I hate the most is seeing a slide that says market, team, business model. Like imagine if you saw a newspaper and the headline was story down below. I know it's a team slide. I can see people's faces. I don't need you to headline a team. Use a statement, okay? So instead of giving me information and data, tell me what it means. So use your title as a statement. It's a lot more persuasive, a lot more convincing. This is what this means. And then the data that confirms it. You don't need to be an amazing designer. Statement, data that confirms it. Statement, data that confirms it. Statement, data that confirms it. Clean, clear, you know what point they're making, you know what they're trying to say. There is no ambiguity, no guessing. I implore you, it will be so much more persuasive. Now, the reason people don't do this is because they're super lazy about writing this. What am I really saying? What is the wording? But the reason you don't like it is because you have some slides that suck, that are unnecessary, that are useless. And you can't figure out what the statement is because it's something you already said, which is great because it means you should delete that slide. All right? So A, you get to put a stamp on this is the point of the slide, and you have a cohesive narrative in your mind of do these sentences fit together. And when you're presenting, you'll be more comfortable because you're not just like ad-libbing or improvising like, oh yeah, this is our market size, and as you can see, we have 3 charts and our numbers are really big, and I'm using the billion number here, so you should be interested. Instead, There's a real point that you're trying to get across. Now, the other thing is buzzwords. Seth Godin is one of my favorite marketing authors, and he calls them purple farts. What are these buzzwords? Smart technology. When you find dumb technology, tell me about smart technology. Nobody says it, so it's immediately deleted. Your brain doesn't even absorb it. Smart, disruptive, intelligent, next generation means nothing. Usually, it's filler. If you find yourself using those words, remove them. And some words start off good, but then they become buzzwords. AI. It's become so meaningless that it's better not to say it and just say what it does. You get way more credibility because your sentences are shorter, they're less complicated, and if they're less complicated, I don't think you're trying to trick me. And if I don't think you're trying to trick me, you come across as more confident, more relaxed, and you can actually breathe between sentences. Pretty useful trick. Now, what does this company do? Can you guess? Just a guess. You, sir, what do you think they do? Does anybody know? They make people's lives easier. How? Some people will go to a branding agency or a corporate website and see stuff like this. They are successful in spite of this, not because of this. You, as a founder, cannot get by with vague statements like this that are meaningless. This is not an insurance company. It's not in the medical sector. This is a data analytics company. And here they're talking, making people's life, okay, thank you. Very useful. Great use of real estate. Now, some of you will stand up on stage, pitch your company, and you are going to say, we are the best priced, the most affordable. And some of you will even be honest and say, we are the cheapest. And that is a scary thing to hear as an investor. Why is it frightening to me that you're cheap? You, sir, why is it scary to be cheap? Can you hand him the mic?
Sure.
Hi. I think being cheap or too cheap, sometimes it reflects that you either sell below the cost or at the cost, so you are not profitable, or you are having something like a very distinguished advantage, very, very competitive advantage, and which is not in the market. And so what comes to my mind is what do you do to do this, to make this happen? I mean, selling very, very cheap. Yeah. 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 And in some countries there is like a price wars because many of them thinks that if they sell cheap they will capture the market, but soon they will get out of the market because they are selling on the cost or even below the cost. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, if you're telling me that you're cheap, you're better priced, you're more affordable, what you're basically saying is that you need to bribe your customers to use your product. It is so bad, you need to bribe people to use it. And if you did not pay them money to use your product, they would not use it. That is not a fun situation to be in. Let's say it's an industry where being efficient is super key. You are the new Walmart. It means you need to be the cheapest in everything. Pay the least salaries, use the cheapest materials, and the moment any of your employees finds another offer, they'll be, thank God, and I'm gonna walk away. Is that the kind of environment? You get to build a new company, you get to set a new environment. Is that what you want to do? Just be pinching pennies at every corner? That is not a fun existence, especially in the early days of a company. You can be cheap, but you have to defend it like you said. How come you are so much more efficient? Odds are in most early stage companies, they're not paying themselves salaries. They're storing goods in their apartments. It's stuff that is efficient now, but does not translate in the future and immediately gets wiped away. But if they've got good efficiencies that are lasting, that make it so that they are the overall best solution, not just best price, they're skipping this, they're skipping focusing on tech features, they're going here. This is a really nice area to be in. And they can actually defend it. So this is a used car company. They defend why they're lower cost. We have no showrooms, fewer underutilized salespeople, minimized management overhead, inventory cost, acquisition cost. This is why we are cheaper. It's not because we need to beg people to use the product. It's because we are simply more efficient, and it's hard for those who have invested in physical infrastructure to actually match us, even if they wanted to. All right? This is a great example of Xiaomi. When they first came up, that's how they won. Samsung was paying celebrities to go on billboards. You couldn't order a Xiaomi from a store. You had to go online. You had to wait once a month when they did their drop. You order it. So they don't even pay inventory costs. So in exchange, you got the tech sector, the tech-savvy audience, because they don't need to go. Like some people will go to a store and they need to hold the phone. They need to feel the leather, look at the feel. But the tech enthusiast isn't doing that. They're looking at what's the processor, how big is the battery, how many milliamperes does it cover. They're looking at specs. That audience they can get cheaply. And Samsung cannot compete with that because it would mean destroying their entire strategy. So there are efficiencies that you can build in that are hard for your opponent to replicate. If you've got that, you've earned it. Now, let's talk about business model. Some of you saw in the early slides when we were looking at the components, there was a block called business model. That is revenue model. Nobody wants to see a business model canvas in your slides. It is a horrible sight. Information overload, looks hideous. You spend 5 minutes explaining each individual box. It's useless. So do not use it. It is a team discussion tool. It is not a presentation apparatus. Okay? Business model, revenue model. How much does it cost? How does it scale? Give me a sense. This is ugly. I'm not telling you this is pretty, but it gives me what the company does. I know how much they pay. I know, like, the problem with everybody that's like, what's your business model? Oh, we're freemium. What does that mean? What is free? What is emium? What makes them transfer? So we know that they're paying for this stuff. If they don't pay, they don't get this. If they want to use the free, it's fine. It'll do what it needs to do. But for corporations who are sending sales docs, etc., they care a lot about branding. They care a lot about this analytics. So we will convert people well. By the way, yeah, this is DocSend's actual pitch deck. Now, you're a marketplace with tons of transactions. You've got an ecosystem happening. This is an example of showing it, right? We're showing each activity and where the fees come in. Seller lists, purchases an item, there's a transaction, shipping service, packaging service, advertising. We're all showing in the value chain where do our commissions come in, where do our fees come in. Gives me a good sense of how it comes. Let's say, I'll wait for your picture to finish. Go ahead. Did you take it? خلاص. You've got a commission model. If you're fintech, a lot of them are based on transactions. This is a good way of showing it, right? What isn't useful is just saying, oh, we take 20%. 20% of what? What is the average? What's the size of the transaction? How frequent is it? The key thing here isn't just the 1.85%. It's that it's showing me the average transaction, 15,000. This means it might be a small number, but it actually translates to a gigantic market. And this is how much per customer per year. So I get a good sense of how these economics play out over time. All right? I'm sorry if I'm overexcited. I've had too much coffee. Okay? I don't usually drink caffeine, but for sessions like this, it's a necessity. Now, we're showing traction. Give me growth. Give me numbers. Don't show me projections. If you have key customers that have used this that you want to use as referrals, put them in front and center. Get a quote, especially if it's somebody reputable in that industry. All right? Don't show me your uncle. Show me somebody who is a picky buyer so that when I'm doing my due diligence, I can call them up and I can say, you really like this? How was the experience? What aspects of it attracted you? Huge boost in credibility if you have it. Sometimes with go-to-market, I find that a lot of founders will just list stuff. Go-to-market, we're going to do digital advertising, we're going to go to conferences, and we're going to do SEO, and we'll create content. Like, I could take that slide and I could give it to every single company in the world and it would still work. If you're saying everything, you are saying nothing. Okay? So go-to-market, give me a sense. Are you efficient? How are you efficient? What's the way that you're able to onboard them? Do you know how to onboard them? How do you find them? How do you cut through the noise? Through everything else that they're being sold. Give me a sense of that. Then that go-to-market slide has worked. Now, some people have been given the advice of, in order to grab people's attention in the beginning of a pitch, give them a surprising number. And you end up with all this number. Did you know that 12 billion people are diabetes and 24% of them have an amputation and 3% of those could have been prevented? And then it's like, what do you do, man? I've just number. I'm stunned. I have no idea how this is supposed to make sense. Which of these numbers am I supposed to pay attention to? It's fine. If you have a gigantic market size, sometimes you're not specific enough, which gives me a sense that you don't know where you're selling. So beware. And secondly, we'll talk about how to make the numbers pop out a little bit more. Now, when we're talking about market size, there's some people that will do it. They'll give you the market size and they'll give you the assumptions. So it just immediately stops the question of how was this calculated. This is a gigantic market size, but it's real estate. It's normal. You expect it. The more interesting thing here isn't just the numbers. It's the fact that this isn't just telling me how big it is, it's telling me how the company is prioritizing, what their future looks like. So this says, we are starting with vacation rentals. Why? Because they are the most fragmented, because they require phone calls, they require emails. It's where the pain is most acute. It shows that they've really thought through where they're going to start and where they're going to go in the future. So it's not just numbers, it gives you prioritization. It gives you a nice idea of where their focus is. How do they see the future? Similar to the team slide, economy of slides. A lot of information that's easy to digest and easy to understand. And some investors might not even know why they get this so intuitively. It's just subliminal. Like, wow, yeah. And they could explain it to their partners so easily. It's effortless. You need to do that for them. You can't just say, they don't get it. It's your fault they don't get it. Similar, except used cars. Now, every now and then, somebody's going to say, where do you get this number? Where do you get that number? Have it, like, this doesn't need to be your PhD thesis, but at least know that your key numbers, where are they? Make sure they're cited, just so that when that person who's feeling argumentative, you're in a startup competition somewhere and one of the judges just wants to sound smart, like, I didn't get this number. Okay. You're able to defend that. Okay? Now, in terms of numbers, start with a single unit, a single human being, how they feel the problem, then expand out. It's a lot easier for people to digest and understand the magnitude. But until I know what that is, it's hard for me to care about these gigantic numbers. This company basically had one of their customers record why they like using this in comparison to other platforms. Short, sweet, 20-second, I like it because da-da-da-da, and it does this for me. Gives you a nice user testimonial. Not necessary. If you don't know how to do this without it being cheesy and making the person, your customer, feel like a hostage, then don't do it. Now, competition. Who has no competitors? Yeah? Good. I can skip. I don't have a lot of time, so I'll skip that spiel. All right, we all understand that we have competition. A lot of people are really bad at talking about their competition. So what they end up with is either, oh, their competition sucks, they're really bad, they're all unethical, and then the person that you're talking to is like, but that my nephew works there. It's like, oh, okay. You don't look too good, you don't look too self-confident. Or what is more likely is that you have this really nice table with X's, red X's and green check marks, and subhanAllah, you have all the green check marks. It is so lucky, so incredible that all the things that are listed there you have, and your competitors, they don't have any. And even the best ones, they might just be missing one or two, just because you're being fair, you're being generous, you gave them something. When you're an investor and you see that, you're automatically looking through the y-axis and the x-axis, and you're trying to figure out what is the thing that they invented so they could give themselves an extra check mark. Not useful. So some people like an XY, it's fine, an XY is okay. But make sure that it's something that you can easily do as an XY. In a lot of cases, it's hard to distill down to two things. And if you can't do it as two things, I'm gonna show you an ugly slide, but it has a point. All right? Are your eyeballs prepared? Are you okay? All right. This is ugly. All right? It's fine. The reason I like this is it has two nice ideas. One, it's not mentioning specific customers here or competitors. It's showing you buckets. There are these buckets of competitors out there. There's legacy SMB software, enterprise, food distributors, online marketplaces. These are buckets. So if somebody says, what about this company? Oh, that's part of this bucket. And then they describe characteristics. This is the problem with these buckets. You don't have to even write it like this. You can just show 3 buckets, label them, and say, there are 3 kinds of players in our industry. There's 1, 2, and 3. They have this advantage, this advantage, this advantage, this advantage. Where we stand out is this. That's a very effective way of educating and positioning yourself. Now, let's talk about closing. When we talk about trying to bring the story to a close, it is very normal to see somebody, I don't know why, the founders, when they are here and about to give a pitch, all they're thinking about is, what is the first thing I'm going to say? What is my first sentence? And then they get up here, they start, they finish their presentation, like, oh, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. They're surprised that the slide ended. They're surprised that the pitch ended. Why? That is such a shame. Your ending slide is the slide that will be on the screen the longest. Because when you're answering questions, that's what's up there. Having thank you or Q&A is useless. You don't need to thank them. Why should you thank them? What have they done for you? Have they invested yet? They haven't? Then you have no reason to thank them. All right? No need to say thank you. Most people have a story. The story tends to be like this. We're on a mission, we have a problem, we have this cool tech, and giving us money is really great. It's fine. Figure out where in the story you stand out. This is the standard beat. I'll give you 2 things that are stylistic. Okay? And then I'll tell you about to close, and then I'll close. I could easily go for 2 hours, but I'm trying to keep up with time here. Voice. If you want people to doze away, then talk at the same cadence, at the same pace for a long time. They will remember their math lesson and have a nice nap. Okay? Alternate. If you're talking about the problem, you should be a little bit slower, a little bit more empathic, a little bit more serious, maybe upbeat when you're talking about a solution, how it's helped people, but modulate. For the God, modulate. Like nobody thinks about this when they're practicing, but if it helps, think that you're reading a story to your 5-year-old nephew. All right? You're reading that story, you are making voices. I know you are. You're making voices, you're creating characters. Do that. Investors, 5-year-olds, not too different. All right? Now, scripted. If it's a super short pitch, 1 minute, 2 minutes, fine. You want to memorize it, memorize it. But anything longer than that, you need to know the beats. You need to give yourself room to not have to memorize every single perfect word. I've seen people where they're like, hut, and then they start again because, come on, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel authentic. It doesn't feel genuine. All right? I've given the session 1,000,000 times. Every time it comes out different. The audience is interested in different things. I'm interested in different things. I've had different frustrations with founders that year, so I'm going to focus on things that year. All right? Now, body language. I'm not going to talk about the typical stuff. You all know. Don't cross your arms. Don't punch the audience. Yeah? Okay. But sometimes people get up here and they don't know what to do with their hands. They're like, wait, did I always have these? Where do I put them? Do I just stand here like this? This is weird. Maybe I should do an angle. Like they just suddenly hyper-conscious. Your hands are your punctuation. All right? Sharp motions, flowing, whatever. But use them to control the points. All right? Also, this is super important if you're doing virtual pitches. If you're on Zoom, do not just be ahead. Use your hands. It feels weird. Step away. Use them. It is far more engaging. People actually look at you instead of looking at their phone or their other tabs. All right? Super important. Now, practice, practice, practice. Do not practice with yourself in front of a mirror. Fine, do that, but don't count it as practice. All right? Record a video of yourself. If you have a co-founder, they should record a video of you. And they should force you to watch it. You won't want to watch it because you will hate your voice, you will hate how you move, you will hate how you look. Your co-founder's job is to force you to watch it no matter what. Okay? That's what we see. Those are the tics. Better you see them than you see them in the recording of you on stage or somewhere. All right? Now, there are 3 ways of closing. Number 1, that are not the stupid thank you, okay? Number 1, you start, this is the TEDx style of you start with something and you end with it again. You start with a problem and you talk about it again. So that's not a bad one. The second one is to do the summarize. What are the 3 most exciting things? If you want to invest in a company that's growing at 20% month over month, that has X deals, that is doing X thing, talk to me after. Works fine. Finally, it's what emotion do you want to end on? Like, is there a line? I remember there was one company, there was one social enterprise, and they were making tutus in refugee camps, made a lot of money and made a lot of good. And it was like making the world a better place, 1 tutu at a time. I think that was nice. I remember that. It has an impact. So, and you know, the picture of a little girl in a refugee camp in a tutu was just, it was adorable. So it had an impact. So use that. All right? Summarizing, feeling you want to end on, or closing the loop that you opened in the beginning. And with that, thank you very much. And sorry for taking longer. Yeah. If anybody has questions.
Anybody have questions?
Well, apparently we have time for questions.
بسرعة. Wait, can you answer in private? I think it's better.
What?
If they have questions, yeah.
Yeah, no. If it's a question that everybody can benefit from, then...
But I can come up with one.
I'm not that scary, guys.
He didn't say he's not scared. He's not that scared.
Not that scary.
So
yeah.
be aware of it.
Okay, so on the competition slide, you showed us one really good example. So usually when you have the X's and the ticks and all of that, it's usually focusing on features. So I liked the part where it says buckets. Now, the example you gave us had not just the companies, but it had the characteristics and it had a few variables as well. What would you believe are the main points that you would add there? Because an axis would have 2 variables, that kind of stuff would have that.
All right. Now, there are 2 answers. The cop-out answer is it depends, which isn't useful. The real answer is when you ask your customer about what they're using, when they describe all the solutions that they're using, oh, this, but it's really tricky to integrate. We have this, but it's really pricey. We have this, but we have a lot of users. Use those points as your axis, because those are the things your customers care about. Because then when your investor says, oh, what's the point? Who cares about that? Oh, actually, 70% of our customers specifically mention that. And then they shut up. They can't address it anymore. Customer data is the best way. Like, oftentimes, an investor will say something weird, like that it's hard to respond to politely. It's like, I think this is wrong. I think you're wrong. Not very useful. Instead, you respond with data. Well, we have 50 customers, you're using it this way. Actually, we were surprised. We thought this wasn't unnecessary at all. But then we found that people actually did 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's a nice way to diffuse a tense situation and come out looking better. Okay? Any final question? All right. So, all right, last question.
Why you are awesome. Sorry. Thank you.
That is not proven yet, but all credit goes to my parents. Look, honestly, guys, you should have watched me give presentations 10 years ago. I'd probably die of embarrassment from watching them. I get better every founder that challenges me. Every conversation I have, I learn from. So it's the fun part of this job is like finding stubborn founders that argue back. Those are the ones that really educate me the most. So the most important thing that I'll end with is don't take anything I say for a fact. Always make sure it fits for you. Your pitch is supposed to feel comfortable. All right? It's something that you're supposed to feel natural when you say it. If you're stretching yourself, then you are an audiobook to your slides. It's not useful at all. Try a few permutations. Ignore the PowerPoint. Figure out what the story is. Do it 3, 4 times. Record it. See what the sequence feels most natural to you. And that'll be the best pitch because you'll be comfortable on stage and people will feel comfortable. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Sabah.